Does your cat want a friend? Sounds like such a simple question, but actually it's super difficult to answer. And it's much more difficult than the question of, do I want a new cat? The answer is yes. Do you want a new cat? The answer may well be yes. But when thinking about what's best for our cats, it's much, much more difficult. Figgy, do you want a new cat? Do you want a cat friend? I imagine his answer is no. So let's go through the things to think about when considering the question, does your cat need a new friend? So, this is a really difficult question to answer, and that's because cats vary so much on their social needs. So, some cats want a truly solitary life where they're not going to interact with any other cats other than fighting and mating, and they're not going to live with people, and they're just going to live by themselves, and they're totally happy doing that. Other times, there are cats that really thrive having attention from people and living among other cats, and they're totally happy doing that. And obviously, there's tons of cats in the middle. Lots of cats will tolerate living with other cats, but they don't actually love it. And lots of cats do need that company of other animals. So there's no set rules, there's no one size fits all. And it's not a case of me saying to you, okay, you've got a great big house in the country, you've got room for tons of cats, like get as many as you can fit. That's not the case. So, really, we need to think about the individual that you have in your house and also the individual that you're hoping to bring into your house, because each of these cats will have their own social requirements, and we really need to make sure it's the best decision for both cats. So, here are some things to consider. So, if you currently have no cats and you ever want to have two, then it's much easier to get two cats to begin with. And I would recommend either getting a bonded pair from a rescue or two kittens from the same litter. So, the benefit of this is that we don't have to worry about introductions where so many times it goes wrong, and you don't have to worry about separating your house up, having one cat either side of the door, and having to spend your time in with either cat. So, you don't have to worry about any of that. And the cats already come as a pair, they're already familiar, they know each other, and they can act as a source of reassurance for each other, so they can settle in easier. And you've got a ready-made package there, two friends that are going to get on. It's not a guarantee that it will work out, especially if you get kittens from the same litter. For the most part, they'll get on okay, but there are chances that later down the line they'll fall out. But it's the best chance you'll have of them getting on long term. So this is definitely recommended from my point of view. If you already have a kitten and they're still little, then this is a good time to bring in another kitten, especially if you're struggling to keep them stimulated, if they're getting up to mischief, if they're annoying you because they just want to play all the time. That's totally normal for a kitten. And I have lots of people messaging me to say, my kitten's being aggressive, my kitten is relentless, my kitten's attention seeking, my kitten is so, so difficult to handle. And I just say that's all totally normal. So as long as you're doing all the right things, playing with them appropriately, and giving them the environment that they need, then it's just a case of riding that out. So bring in another kitten. This is perfect because they can play together and both their needs being met. And if you do have to go out, if you spend the day at work, then they've got each other for company and they're not going to be alone. The benefit to bring them in when they're little is that they're not territorial at this point, or for the most part, they don't have much territorial nature to them. That kicks in when they're adults. So during their kittenhood, between sort of, well, from birth until about, what would I say, probably about 10 months, I'd say that's a good time to introduce kittens to each other because they're still super playful. And like I say, that territorial nature hasn't kicked in yet. So if you still have a young cat on your hands and you ever want to get another cat in future, now's the time to bring one in. And again, think about complementary temperaments. So there's no set rules again, whether you want two confident cats together, two timid cats together, or one of each. You really just want to think about the cat that you've got and find one that you think is going to work well together. The introduction process usually goes a lot smoother as well when you have two kittens together. So that's exactly what I did with Fig and Sparks. So it's 14 years ago now, but we got Figgy and he was an absolute terror. He was knocking the Christmas tree over, he was climbing up people's jeans, he was being an absolute pain. Obviously we loved him, but he definitely needed a playmate, and we got Sparks 3 months later, and they were best friends straight from the beginning. Like, they played together, they did all that play that was like biting each other's faces and kicking each other in the tummies, and wrestling and all that biting, and that's exactly what they needed. So that worked really well and helped take the heat off me and my family a little bit. And obviously they've been best friends ever since, although Sparks is in bed and Figgy's here with me. So yes, definitely, if you've got one kitten already and you're worried that that kitten might need a friend one day, then the sooner you can bring another one in, the better. Another really tricky situation is when you've had a bonded pair and one of them has passed away. So the cat that's left can find it really difficult to deal with that and suddenly being left on their own. And they do grieve. They go through the process of grieving, and it's really, really hard for us to see. And everybody wants to replace that, wants to bring in a new cat and for that new cat to fill that void. And so your original cat can carry on doing the same behaviors, like hanging out with the cat. They might cuddle up together, they might groom one another and just keep each other company. But what you'll find is that often it takes some adjustment for your cat to get used to the fact that their companion is gone. And bringing in a new cat in that time very rarely works out. Like if it's worked out for you, let me know, because I feel like I'm biased because I see so many times when it goes wrong. But what I would generally recommend to sort of safeguard things is to wait for your cat to finish grieving. So wait till they've adjusted to the loss and they're okay again and you're seeing their normal behavior return. That's the point where you can think about getting in another cat. And I would only do it if it's right for you, not for the sake of your other cat. Because once they're through that grieving process, you might find actually life as a single cat's not that bad. They're okay, they've got their territory to themselves. And think about whether bringing in a new cat would bring more stress and do more harm than good. Because I see that so often. And yeah, the guilt that comes with, I got this cat for you, and you're super, super sad about it. The guilt we feel about that is just really tricky. So, if you're thinking about getting another cat for your cat's sake, then just think about whether that's actually what they wanted. One scenario where I would advise getting another cat is if you have a super sociable cat, they're young, they're energetic, they're full of energy, they don't have outside access, and you're out of the house for long periods of time. Because in these scenarios, these cats are suffering sometimes. They're super lonely and they could do with some company. If they've got outside access, then they can go and find their own and they can keep themselves busy, and that's not normally a problem. But if they don't have that opportunity to do that, then bringing in a new cat can be helpful. So I must caveat it with make sure that you choose a cat that matches your cat's temperament or complements their temperament at least, and look at make the decision from their point of view. Is this a cat they're going to want to live with? Is this a cat that's going to fit in well? If not, then keep looking. And on that note, there's lots of cats that just invite themselves into your home and decide to move in and they're not leaving. And I totally get that. And lots of times that can work. But if it doesn't work, if you know that your cat absolutely hates this other cat that's just decided to move in, it's okay to find that cat a new home. Like if that cat really is a genuine stray and is looking for somewhere to live, then just because they've chosen you, don't feel like you can't say no, because there will be another home out there that's perfect for them. And we have to think about all the cats in the scenario and what works best for all of them. So, with those scenarios out of the way, what do you do if you just have a house full of cats and you want to add one more? Well, there are some things to think about. So, have a think about the relationships between the cats that you have in your house already. Like, are you seeing mainly good behaviour in that they're snuggling up together and grooming one another and doing all those nice things? Or do they totally ignore each other? Because that's still fine too, like housemates instead of family, just cohabiting and there's no issues. If so, then I'd be a bit wary of disrupting the harmony, but it's not a bad position for you to bring in a new cat. Like, this is the situation I have. These two get on so well that I'm nervous to bring in another one. So that's the reason why I don't do it. But if the situation presented itself, I feel like we could make it work. Like, there's no reason not to. However, if you have relationships between your cats that are actually quite tense and you're noticing behaviours like hissing and growling or fighting, blocking access to resources, like there's just tension, like a lot of staring and just like rubbing up the wrong way against each other, then I would not recommend bringing in a new cat into this scenario, because what you'll probably find is that they're getting by and it's okay. But adding another cat into the mix just increases that social pressure in the territory. Like there's extra competition for resources that may already be spread thin. And often it doesn't work so well. Like if it's worked for you, then please let me know. Like I say, I'm super biased. But yeah, if your cat's relationships are currently balancing on a knife edge, I wouldn't recommend bringing in a new cat. Another thing to think about is whether the cats you have are healthy. Like, are they in the position to accept a new cat into the household? Because if they're already super stressed or if they're dealing with an illness, then I don't think it's fair to introduce a new cat into this scenario, because it is stressful and it does take time to move through the introduction process and can put them out. So that's another thing to think about as well. And on that note, is your cat going to cope okay with the introduction process? So I often recommend when you bring a new cat into the household that they have their own room, that they can just be by themselves, they can decompress, they can get used to their territory. And once their confidence returns and they're settled, that's the time to start the introduction processes with the existing cats. So this is going to mean that one room in your house is going to be closed off. So is your cat going to be okay with that, or are they desperately going to be clawing the carpet to get into that room so they can sleep on the bed or sleep in the sunny patch or see what's on the other side? So this needs to factor in as well, and something that you need to think about when you're considering if your cat wants a new friend. So if you introduced a new cat to your household and it went well, please let me know in the comments because I need some success stories, please. I see too many times when it goes wrong and I want to hear when it goes right. So I will leave it there for now. Take care and I will see you next time. Bye. Look at you cute. You're so cute. You're so cute.